Said I served for 10 years the entire Bush administration at the Dallas Peace Center, objecting to wars, talking about why we should be able to avoid them, and everything I'm going to say today is going to go back to institution building for the purposes of maintaining and sustaining peace, because they clearly have the institutions. Part of it's called the military, part of it's called the industrial, part of it's called the congressional. The military-industrial congressional complex is all about occupation and spending our tax dollars the wrong way. What we've got to talk about doing is changing the way we participate in this democracy and changing the way people think about how democracy can and should function. And that means building institutions. Some of you know that my proudest professional part of my life is that as director of the Dallas Peace Center. The reason I was able to do that and sustain that effort was because of a lot of the people that are standing here today talking about maintaining and sustaining that institution. There are other peace institutions that are at risk and hurting today because we're not sustaining them with our time and our efforts and our money. Before I get into talking about the Quaker Peace House, I want to talk about the Occupy movement, because in today's paper, I saw a story about how even the Occupy movement is hurting financially. They have done more in the last 6 months to change the conversation and discourse in this country than anything has occurred in the last decade. And so the people that are here, and I'm meeting you maybe for the first time because you're involved with Occupy, thank you very much for what you're doing. It is important, just like building other institutions is important. Obviously, I spent 12 years supporting the Peace Center here in Dallas, Texas. But I want to talk about the Quaker House in North Carolina. I just was wondering the last couple of days what I was going to talk about, and finally I opened my mail. It says just in time. While we're here commemorating and mourning the 9th anniversary of a war that should have never happened, what we need to realize is we're facing the just-in-time war, which is how they describe it from the Quaker Peace House out in North Carolina. Let me explain. I strongly suspect that just-in-time is the next big war. The next big war, can you feel it coming on too? Can you feel it? Do you see it every day? They're beating the war drums louder and louder. They need a just-in-time war because they want to sustain what we did not end, which is the radical expenditures on militarism in this country. We had an end to the Cold War, and we lost the opportunity to redirect. We ended the Cold War, but we failed to end the arms race, whether you're talking nuclear or the newest ones, which are the little drones go around and kill innocent villagers. We could have, and we should have. So, wow, we could end a lot of bad things. They may make sure we can't do that. Many war industry lobbyists are very spooked about deficit cutting schemes that might, but only might, happen if we are able to avoid a war next year. There's a lot of talk about the deficits that the wars have cost. We need to make sure that that's what people are talking about in the next election cycle, which would be this year, 2012. If we don't talk at every venue, every possibility, we know we're going to have at least 2 members of Congress new from North Texas. We need to show up at their events. We need to be at town hall meetings where members of Congress are there. We need to talk about changing the direction of our expenditures. They go on and on and on, talk about the just-in-time war, but I want to mention specifically it will be just in time to drown out the growing calls to investigate the disgrace of official torture to make sure it never happens again. After all, the CIA might want to enhance some more interrogations. We can put a stop to these crimes against humanity, but we cannot do it if we just demonstrate on the anniversary of the start of another war. We can only do it if we focus on a long-term struggle. It's been since 1937-38. that our economy has become so industrialized that we're economically dependent on those weapons of mass destruction, the ones created by our government and sustained by our tax dollars. The only way we can turn that around is to be politically engaged every day, whether it's sending an email or a copy of something to somebody, or participating in Occupy action, or supporting your local peace institution. Now, I think most politicians talk too long, so I'm going to try not to do that. What I am going to do is say that I'm proud of all of you that were wearing black, but I'm still proud of the red, white, and blue. Not the flag of occupation, but the red, white, blue symbols that talk about this country and how it can be a better country. Some of you know that I am the only member of the Texas legislature that stood up 9 years ago and said no to the resolution in support of war, no to a resolution that supports the Anti-Patriot Act. You can say no loud and clear at every time, every venue. You have an opportunity to do so, but you can also say yes. Please get involved in the electoral process. Please hold elected officials accountable. Please go to City Hall and complain about whatever's going on. But remember, they're outspending us on a regular basis because their livelihood to support the weapons of mass destruction, their livelihood to sustain the 1% occupying the 99% is dependent on your being passive. I'm a pacifist, but I'm not passive at all. I'm a pacifist, but I'm very aggressive when it comes to pursuing justice and fighting for what I think is right. And if more of you will do more of that, we can have more freedom and liberty and justice for everybody. Thank you for coming out today.